Hey guys. Ultimate thoughts on this episode was that it wasn't a completely bad episode, but part of me is thinking that the season kind of went downhill a little bit because I think that the tribe switch actually hurt the gameplay somewhat because I don't really like how the gameplay on Koyopa went from, like a bunch of people vying for other people's votes for just reasons one way or another, even though some people part of me weren't fans of that. And now it's just, a couples kind of game. I don't know, I just didn't really find myself bonding with that. I just think that there's a possibility that this swap could have, hurt the gameplay somewhat. Now, it could be that this actually improves the voting on Hunapu, given how the tribe is made up. I'll try and touch on more of that later in the video, but I don't know. Right now, I'm seeing potential for this swap to actually hurt it, as I already mentioned, but we'll see how it goes because I know most seasons do swaps, and if you don't do a swap, you're more likely to get a Paganin after the merge, even though Tokyo Teens and Samoa and almost Gaboon had reverse Paganins, so there you go. But Gaboon had swaps, obviously. So, Hudapu gets back to Tribal Council. John's going on a somewhat of a tirade against the tribe because they voted out a friend of his and they didn't tell him. It is understandable, but given the tribe's crazy voting last episode, it still looks kind of pathetic. They go to the arena, and then Jeff announces that there's a swap, and he doesn't even do the reward that they supposedly kind of set up. I mean, what's the point of setting up a thing like that if you're not going to use it, Madness. So then Jeff hands each tribe a bag of buffs with an even amount of buffs in each. I kind of expected that once I saw that there were two separate bags, because you can't just throw in a random amount of buffs into one bag or another, And how do I feel about going down, just even down the line? Well, it's how they choose to do the swap, honestly. I'm not somebody who's really that picky on how you do the swap, just so long as it makes the game interesting. So overall impressions on the tribe, well, obviously Koyoba had mostly couples, and Hunapu had mostly singles, but also appears to have a lot of the athletes there. Jeremy, Natalie, you can argue Reed, and then Alec and Wes. But also the strategic mind of Josh, which is pretty interesting. So the Chums go back to their camps. Hunapu reveals basically why they've been winning almost every challenge. The fact that they've actually been eating too much rice, even though a little bit of that, as I think Drew revealed, was that he's actually allergic to some kind of seafood. He said crabs, but another one he said shellfish, so maybe that's just a broader category, I don't know. And I wonder if Alec is also. That'd be interesting to find out. So once I saw that, I go, well, that does kind of explain it, and also now we know why Drew went to bought the friend back for the fishing gear. He actually had a much stronger motive. There you go. So I gotta admit, I got worried for them because this isn't necessarily like other times where food has needed to be provided, like when Jatia and Brandon dumped their tribe's rice. That's a tribe member deliberately interfering with the tribe, so you should put it back. Unless, of course, it's a unanimous tribal decision to do that, in which case, never mind. And it's not like Australian Outback, where one, the people weren't totally being careful with the rationing, but also they couldn't find any other natural food source out there. Here, it does seem like there was potential to find some natural food source. They just aren't that good at it. So really, it is pretty much neglect here. Which I think is a bit of a bummer because, as I've kind of already alluded to, this tribe, new incarnation of it, still has the potential to carry most of the challenges and does have more of the strategic or athletic people there, so I don't totally want them to splinter apart, and like Jeremy, even though he is getting a little closer to the villain aspect, I think that there's more to him. No, I mean, not to his personality, but what he can do in the game, I mean. Yeah. And then one last thing about Hunapu. I find it the bummer that even when Reed is with Josh, we still get more from Josh rather than Reed. I mean, like, what the heck? Does Reed have, like, no personality? What's up? On Koyo, yeah, all that John and Jacqueline bits, yeah. I mean, like, I thought it was okay at first and understandable, but then how it keeps showing the highlights, I'm like, getting old here, come on. But on the plus side, it was nice to see Missy and Baylor interact with each other, even though it does reveal that Missy isn't too much different from Baylor, and that there actually was some reason that everyone was annoyed with Baylor. And it was also nice to see Kelly reveal that she actually was a super fan in this episode, although unfortunately she got the bit where we don't hear much from her, then we hear a lot from her and she gets booted. And then as for the whole Rice fiasco, honestly I was on the fence because I understand both viewpoints, so I just had to sit there and let it unfold, because that's all I could do. As for the immunity challenge, well, I was kind of hoping Hunapu would take it after it established that they were still really the favorites to win the challenge, and I just love how they just made that basket rotate back and forth. I was just like, woohoo! These guys have got it, and I was amazed at how easy it was for them to land all those sandbags, because you would think that this would be kind of like the episode 3 duel, where it would be easy to knock off the bags, but then I realized, if you could get the first couple on in different spots, that makes the thing be weighed down a little more so it can't move as much. So actually, it's pretty easy to do so. Not bad. So then Hunabu starts making another barter in order to get more rice, and Jeff obviously does need to give them some rice if he wants it to be, well, still a fair game, because what are you going to do? Disqualify an entire tribe due to neglect? If he does that, that's the downfall of the show right there. Although, many will argue this could be the downfall of the show anyway, because a lot of people in the videos, one of the guys at AfterBuzz and Rob's sister Nino were mentioning that there's the possibility that this kind of thing could continue. People will just eat a lot of rice, dominate early in the challenges, and then ask for a potential bargain with Jeff in order to keep themselves above the other tribe. I really hope that that doesn't happen, because if that happens, you know, that cheapens the experience. The element factor doesn't matter anymore, even though many people will say the element factor hasn't mattered since a couple seasons before HVV, even though it has been mentioned since, okay? And, yeah, I was expecting Jeff to just say, give up immunity, but the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like, actually, he can't really do that, because that would actually set the naysayers of reality TV off. And, like, if production makes you give up immunity in order to keep the thing going, you know, it's just them manipulating the game, not keeping it honest, because what happened at, the men's tribe in One World, that was completely their doing. The production did mention that it had to be unanimous, but if you think about it, it makes sense to make it unanimous. But just, you know, it takes the honesty factor out of the game to give up immunity. But the problem is, what can they do? Because Hunapu doesn't really have that much of a shelter. Sure, they have comfort, but not as much as they did in Australian Outback, which it was a lap of luxury compared to this season. Where did I get that phrase from? Whatever, somebody will figure that out anyway. Okay. So, like, giving up the shelter and the comfort items, I just can't really see that. That doesn't strike me as enough. I'm thinking that it's going to have to be something like live on maybe Exile Island for a long period of time and give up the shelter, or forfeit, like, every reward challenge afterward, but potentially deny Koyopa reward, you know? It's going to have to be something pretty steep here, something that hasn't been done before, because if it's just give up the shelter and the comfort, that's just too simple. Anybody can rebuild the shelter, okay? That tribe has 7 people. That's plenty of people. I heard one person on AfterBuzz suggest that they actually just like swap a member. No, sorry, that was a commenter on Know It Alls for Rob Sister Nino. Swap one member, they're trying to go to the other one. It doesn't work like that. That's too much wishful thinking, and again, that's production manipulating the game in a bad way. So we have to see. It could be the simple option, it could be one of the more complex options. We'll see. I hope it's good though. So on Koyopa, surprisingly, instead of everyone getting up on John and Jacqueline, as I was kind of predicting that they would before the challenge, it turns out John and Jacqueline are the swing couple. That does not have a ring to it at all. And I was honestly expecting them to target Baylor, but for some reason, they get Keith to join one of them and throw away the votes to Dale. Well, one of them, I think it was John, ends up casting the 3rd vote for Kelly. And, like, what is the merit to getting rid of Kelly? I mean, like, okay, Baylor, I can understand that because her and her mother are basically interchangeable, minus the fact that Baylor has had her name written down at every tribal she's been to, okay? But, like, Kelly over her father... Now, I heard from John... what's his face again? Justin at AfterBuzz, that it makes sense because Dale can't do as much to get rid of them and would pretty much be the next one out anyway. So when you think of it that way, it does make sense, but I don't know. I'm just not really seeing the merit here. It just came out of nowhere, and it's not a blindside that came out of nowhere that I like. It's like Laura being blindsided in the first Blood vs. Water. It just wasn't good, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, you can understand why I'm kind of annoyed with this episode, but here's the thing that's kind of perplexing me. It seems like the cast here is behaving a lot like the cast in Nicaragua, albeit less explosions, okay? And yet, a lot of people, including me, I should add, are enjoying this. But nonetheless, even though I'm enjoying it, it confuses me, because even though I did kind of enjoy Nicaragua, Nicaragua is still my 2nd worst season since HVV, you know, so yeah, if this sends the climb of seasons plummeting again, I'm not gonna like that. Now, I'm not picky if it's better than Cagayan or One World, I don't mind that at all, but like, I really do not want this to be ranked in the bottom 4 seasons since HVV. That would really suck if it is. Chad, I was hoping to make this video a little shorter. Well, I think I've told you all I wanted to discuss about this episode. Later.